This is CPM Precalculus Chapter 2, Number 11. Here we're asked to solve for x in the simplest manner, no calculator, and no quadratic formula. Okay, so how do we start off? Here, A, we're given 5x squared equals to 15x. So when we're solving for x, a common practice is to set an equation equal to 0. Right, so first we want to subtract 15x from both sides. And then we get 5x squared minus 15x equals to 0. So a little bit of comment on this is some people might want to just divide both sides by 15x, for example. Okay, but what do we notice about our initial equation? We have x squared and x, right? So that means when we're solving for x, we can get maybe up to two answers, right? We might get two answers. Again, here we have something squared, and we might get two answers, right? So we do not want to just divide by 15x because that's going to cancel out one of the x's and only give us one answer. So let's go ahead and subtract 15x from both sides, and then we get this expression, 5x squared minus 15x equals to 0. Okay, so what we want to do now, because we're not going to use our calculator and we're not going to use the quadratic formula, we want to factor this. Okay, so how do we factor this? Well, what can we divide into 5x squared and 15x evenly? So I see we can divide 5 here and here, right? So I'm going to be able to factor out a 5. But also I see we have an x squared and an x, so I'm able to factor out an x as well, right? So if I divide 5x squared by 5x, I'm left with just x, right? And I can check this because if I multiply and distribute the 5x in, I'm going to get 5x times x, I'm going to get 5x squared, okay? So this term, if I divide negative 15x by 5x, well, 15 divided by 5 is 3, and since it's negative, I'm going to have a negative. X divided by x is going to just be 1, so I'm going to close it there. And I can check this by looking at, well, if I distribute 5x times 3, I'm going to get 15x. Okay, so that's my verification, and it's still equal to 0. So now what I see, now that I factored, right? Once I factor, I have 5x times x minus 3 equals to 0. So since I have two terms being multiplied together and they equal to 0, I'm adding the parentheses just to show you that this is one term and this is one term. Then I can separate it and say 5 times x itself equals to 0, or this term x minus 3 equals to 0. Right, because it has to be one of these two equaling to 0 for this equality to be true, equals to 0. Okay, and it's only true to split it up like this when it's equal to 0. So now I can go ahead and look at the left equation we have, and how do I solve for x? Well, now I can just divide by our constant 5. The 5's cancel out, and I have x equals to 0 over 5 is 0. Or, here I want to add 3 to both sides, and then I get x equals to 3. So these are my two solutions, and I did not use a calculator, and I did not use the quadratic formula. So the main thing in saying no, don't use your calculator is because we can program the calculator to have the quadratic formula, and we do not want to use the quadratic formula. Okay, part B. Part B, we're given 2 times x plus 6 squared plus 5 equals to 23. Okay, and again we have x minus 6 squared. So we're going to have x squared term. That means we're going to have possibly two answers for our x. Okay, so let's first set this equal to 0 by subtracting 23 from both sides. So 23 minus 23 is 0 on the right. 5 minus 23 is going to be negative 18. And 2 times x minus 6 squared stays the way it is. Okay? So now let's go ahead and distribute x minus 6 squared. So that's going to make it 2x minus 6 times x minus 6, right? Because this is squared. We still have the minus 18 equals to 0. Let's distribute x minus 6 times x minus 6. I'm going to use the box method. You can use any method you want. X times x is x squared. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. Negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36. Okay? So I can rewrite this here. It's x squared. Negative 6x minus 6x is going to be minus 12x plus 36. Don't forget the minus 18 and equals to 0. Now let's distribute the 2. I get 2x squared minus 24x plus 36 times 2 is going to be 72 minus 18. So if you didn't know 36 times 2 is 72, you could just do it here because we're trying not to use calculators. 6 times 2 is 12. Carry the 1. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 72. Okay? So what's 72 minus 18? So let's combine like terms. 2x squared minus 24x. Well, what is 72 minus 18? Again, let's just do it right here. We don't want to use a calculator. So 2 minus 8 doesn't work, so we need to borrow. So this becomes a 6, and this becomes 12. 8, so 12 minus 8 is going to be 4. 6 minus 1 is 5. Plus 54 equals to 0. Okay, so now when we have this quadratic equation, normally we would just plug it into the quadratic formula using a is 2, b is negative 24, and c is 54. Okay, but we're asked specifically not to use the quadratic equation. So what can we do? Well, we can factor this. So do you see anything that we could divide into all three of these terms? Well, this we can divide 2 and x, or 2 x's. This we could divide 2. We could divide 3. We could divide 4. We could divide 6. But this one is only 2, so a common term we could divide 2 or x. This one we can't divide the x, but we could divide the 2. So let's factor out a 2, and we're left with x squared here, 12x here, and 27 here. Right? 54 divided by 2 is 27. Okay? So can we do anything else? Well, if you look at this, can we factor this anymore? And yes, we can. And how do we do that? Well, we want to look for two numbers that multiply together and get 27. So if they multiply together, they get 27. If we add them, they get negative 12. So what two numbers can be multiplied together to get 27 and added to get negative 12? Well, then you have to think of the factors of 27. So 1 and 27, right? Well, 1 times 27 is 27, but you can't add those to get negative 12. Negative 1 and negative 27 multiply to get positive 27, but add to get negative 28, which is not negative 12. We cannot divide 27 by 2. It's an odd number. Well, how about 3? Well, 3 times 9 is 27, okay? But 3 plus 9 is positive 12. Well, how about negative 3 and negative 9? Yes, negative 3 times negative 9 is equal to positive 27, and negative 3 plus negative 9 is negative 12. So we could go ahead and factor this to be x minus 3 times x minus 9. Okay, and bring down the 2 and set it all equal to 0. Okay, and now since we factored it, we know that one of these terms, either the first one, second one, third one, or all three of them equal to 0. So we have to say 2 equals to 0, right? This one equals to 0, or x minus 3 equals to 0, or x minus 9 equals to 0. Okay, well, we know 2 is not equal to 0, so this does not give us a solution. But if we add 3 to both sides, We get x equals to 3 as a possible solution because x can be 3. If we add 9 to both sides here, x equals to 9 is a possible solution. So here is our answer for number 11, part B. Okay? So this ends CPM Precalculus, chapter 2, number 11.